Sometimes the most beautiful places are inhabited by the most unattractive people. Often the people who discover the best vacation destinations often have to decamp as soon as the hoi polloi arrive. People keep asking me if I'll be returning to Fourth Pres now that Shannon is leaving. It's a very disappointing question. Also, it's very, very likely they'll find someone who's even worse than Shannon. And I can't leave twice. It's one thing to be in apostate for the Lord once, but it's really, really bad form to be one twice. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we talk about everything and nothing. This Sunday, we talked about the new Poet Laureate of Chicago, a new monument in honor of Mamie Till Mobley, and about being an artist in residence at the Cliff Dwellers Club, how to monetize a complaint, and how we believe Jane Pauley is the one who actually invented the bad hair day. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Acts. All things are in common, day by day. And from Peter, if you're beaten for doing wrong, then what credit is that? But if you suffer for doing right, it's to your credit. And from John, whoever enters through me will be saved. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral this week, actually someone mentioned to me that they just love the pomp and circumstance of National Cathedral. And that's because Washington National has the best circumstances. Jan preached her sermon this Sunday about the how the mission field is so much larger than they ever imagined. During the pandemic, literally thousands of people, millions, discovered National Cathedral when their churches around the country closed their doors during the greatest time of need most of us have probably ever experienced. National now has hired their first ever minister for online ministry. Jan wondered how we see God's abundance made manifest in our lives and what new ministry we're pursuing. She said Martin Luther King said, "I've decided to stick with love because hate is just too much of a burden to bear." And that's a circumstance we can all lean into. That's similar to what a friend of mine was mentioning this week about how she contacted me to share the news about Shannon. She said that Shannon was called by another congregation in Atlanta, so she would be leaving. I was so struck by that notion that she was called and had to just answer that call as if Shannon was neither suffering for doing wrong, nor was she either to her credit for doing something that was right. There's a difference between doing a new thing and doing your same old thing, just in a new place. My friend, she said she usually writes the person leaving a nice letter, but she couldn't recount any memorable things to share about Shannon's tenure. And then she added, things are looking up at Fourth. At St. James, the sermon was, what kind of gate would we want to be? Do we want to be a gate to keep people out or to let people in? Or maybe instead we want to be a portal. And maybe we're more often able to be a portal when we can simply step aside from ourselves. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was cited during the sermon at St. James, and it was an example of suffering for doing right. It was the first time I've ever heard a sermon that included the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer that didn't include the mention of his plot to assassinate Hitler. I thought this was a great example of how we can be identified by being a portal instead of being defined by who we're trying to keep out. St. James is a wildly unattractive place. The floors are too high and the pews are too low. The services are extravagantly ill-attended. But if you look closely, you can see sometimes some very attractive people, even in the most unattractive places. We all much prefer to be the victim of our own mistakes instead of being the victim of someone else's mistakes. But when we can do a new thing in a new place, we can find we're a portal. Yes, I've decided to stick with love because it is too much of a burden to bear. I can't be an apostate for the Lord twice. I'm content sitting in the unattractive place. When Capri was discovered as the vacation spot by the hoi polloi, everyone else decamped to Saint-Tropez. Will I be returning to Porth? It's such a disappointing question because it's bad psychology. And bad psychology makes for really, really bad religion, no matter how attractive the place is. Was there suffering for doing right? Yes. But Axe was correct. It was indeed, much to my surprise, to my credit. And to those who spent 9 years suffering for doing wrong, well, where is the credit and all that? So I'm happy to be sitting in the unattractive place. Ironically, if you would like to join me at Sunday Coffee Hour is every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.